into a little bit of a different medium. We cover these kinds of shows every now and then when they come out, but there is one guy in particular, whenever he comes out with a new show, we will always cover him, and that's Veer Das. So on Netflix, Veer Das came out with a new stand-up comedy special called Landing, and we're here to talk about this show. So for those of you that may remember, Veer Das actually had quite a bit of backlash from India. There were a lot of kind of cancel campaigns, towards him with his style of, I'm going to say in air quotes, attacking India, but really it's just kind of enraging Indian nationalists. Well, he's back on the stage in New York with actually quite a full house. So if that doesn't show you how much people really like this guy, then I don't know what. But in this special, and for Veer Das Landing, he's really just talking a lot about, his upbringing, as well as like finding good ways to relate to like the Gen Z audience in 2022. So there's a lot of jokes, about billionaire CEOs. There's a lot of, jokes about white doctors versus Indian doctors that absolutely landed. The venue was laughing very hard. But, I think one thing that I really liked is like, I had never really seen or paid too much attention to Veer Das prior to this, but I was able to like really find a way to relate to many of the jokes that he was saying. Like, I think one of the jokes that really stood out to me was he was saying that he would trust an Indian engineer before he would a white doctor, because he wants a cheap solution really, really fast. And, just going with the Indian engineer, you're going to get that. But nonetheless, this is a pretty good show. From what I've heard, his previous shows were like a little bit more edgier. I can tell that his tone was a little dialed back in this one, just because when he talks about like two Indias, he typically gets a lot of backlash, especially from those that are saying like, don't tell me, an OG Indian, now either moved to the United States or still in India. Don't tell me what my country is like if you haven't lived in the country those years back. But at the same time, many still find it, very relatable, find them to be funny jokes. But I would just love to hear like Mira or Tasha's take on this. I don't know if you were able to watch the show, but as someone who's not very like educated on Veer Das or like some of his jokes, for this being my first one, I quite liked it. But I didn't know what you guys' thoughts were on this.
So I haven't watched it, of course, because you were watching it, and I let you do it. But Veer Das has had a troubled history with the Indian audience. He's of course a comedian. He's an actor. He's also a singer, by the way. So he. His comedy is very intelligent. If you go to any of his shows, you'll realize that he's not your normal, bad joke guy. His jokes are really intelligent. He thinks through his jokes. He's organically funny. But over the last few years, we've seen him. Netflix has released a lot of his shows. For example, I remember 2020, it was a show called Fresh Off the Boat that he had a recurring role there, and then another one in Whiskey Cavalier, he had a recurring role as well. But I think his biggest was when he posted his Two Indias clip to YouTube, based on his monologue at the Kennedy Center in DC, and the audience actually gave him a standing ovation for the Two Indias clip. But what the Indian government did after that was multiple criminal complaints against him, including he had allegations of sedition. So he was so worried that he might go straight to prison when he landed in Mumbai. So he said actually attended. When he came back from Mumbai after the pandemic, the first show that he did in San Francisco, I was there, and I remember him saying that I stopped shaving, I started doing push-ups, and it's just how free is free speech was the entire question that he asked. But he's one of those comedians in India who's afraid of being arrested or being framed very quickly. And he's funny. He's totally intelligent about it. However, I think that he's getting the rough end of the stick by cancellations and everything else that comes his way just because he's honest.
Yeah, and
So
like I think like right now too, like Indian comics are kind of in a weird position because we have comedians like Kunal Kamra, Manowaru, apologies on the pronunciation, but Manowaru Faruqi, Tom Nabat, and other like comedians alike who are
who
getting
have went
in
to
legal
jail.
trouble. Yeah, either have gone to jail.
Manor Faruqi went to jail for a joke that he was planning to tell.
Right.
He hadn't even told the joke.
Right. Exactly. And so, whenever I'm watching this, like, and I'm, kind of reading up on who Veer Das is and like what his previous shows were, I definitely could tell he was a bit dialed back in this one. Now, not so much so where he just wasn't telling any jokes, geared towards India, but more so to where he definitely found a little bit of a different kind of corner of comedy to, start doing. And that was, kind of what's trending right now, just like Gen Z comedy as what I would particularly title it. But my overall thoughts, it's a very funny stand-up comedy show. If you're a fan of Veer Das, you're definitely going to enjoy this because he seems to have a very big audience, especially here in the US. So